What's up, everybody? Billy Jitsu coming at you with another DeFi tutorial. For those not aware about the series, I put my own money in different DeFi protocols and I build tools that I would actually use myself. Today's tool actually came up by accident. Morpho had dropped a liquidator bot tutorial a couple months back, maybe a couple weeks, and I was playing with it to see how I could squeeze out a little bit more revenue using API 3's OEV model. It's no secret that Morpho is very popular and hot right now. You see it deployed on many L2s. It allows you to have immutable. It's free and allows anybody to be their own curator as well. With that, you see that it's a very competitive market with vaults bearing different results between 1 or 2% returns. So you try to squeeze out any way you can while also being safe. So if you looked at Morpho's curation tool, it's really great for front ends for your mainnet deployments. But I noticed that a lot of people do a lot of tests on mainnet in order to see how their vault works before they actually go live. And there really wasn't a lot of support for testnets. So I built it, right? So I built a curation tool that allows you to deploy on testnets the same way you do on a mainnet and then run your different simulations. So you can deploy multiple vaults, multiple markets, and then test your simulations to see how it works out and see what you would look like if you handle different markets and stop wasting real money. So anyways, if you are curious about Morpho or how it works from a bird's eye view, I'm going to take you from A to Z of how to create up a vault, a market, set up your curation parameters, and then get you up and running. It is a long one, so here we go. Welcome to the Morpho Curation Tool companion video. Here I'm going to break down exactly how Morpho vaults and markets work, how to set it up, how to use all the tools. What I noticed was in the Morpho Curator app, it had a lot of support for the mainnets, but no support for testnets. And I also noticed that all these vaults, you see a lot of these test ones and people are just burning through money to get, just a scenario of what it looks like for it. So I created a script library that handles all this: allocations, caps, queues, roles, creating vaults, parameters, all in a simple curation tool on here for you. So I handle it all for you step by step, and I'll take you to the whole thing. You can find all the Morpho deployment addresses for the chain of your choice here. Today I'm using base Apolia, so I'll have all these addresses already set for us in the .env file. So let's go ahead and look at the repo and see what it looks like here. So let me go ahead and minimize this. You'll see that we have contracts. We have these fake USDC, fake wrapped ETH tokens that I have here for testnet. Again, if we were using mainnet, we wouldn't be using these fake ones, but for testnet, I want to have control of the tokens. I also have this mock oracle for ETH and USDC. I want to create scenarios where, the collateral drops in value. I want to be able to run liquidations. I can't do that with real, oracles, so I create my own to have fake scenarios. You'll also notice that we have a flash zone. I won't cover that here in the video because it'll get too long, but if you want to experiment with Morpho flash zones, this works right out of the box. Basically borrows money from it and then pays it back. Morpho currently has 0 fees on flash zones, so very handy. And then the bread and butter of this is the scripts. You'll see all the scripts available for all the actions that we want to take as a curator, setting up markets, vaults, supply caps, all that. What I do want to notice is under the config, there is a config.ts file. You'll see that in the README section here, that we want to make sure that our scripts config file is handling our network, because VM doesn't handle every network that we may want to support. You can manually do it here. So I have this as a reference for all the scripts to just basically put in our chain ID, name, and then it's going to pull our RPC data from .env file on here. It also handles the private key and creating all the clients for us for every script reference. So make sure to update this config file with your network in order to get started. And then one of the most important things on here is our .env example. It's going to take you step by step by every part of this. And this video is going to help you go through everything. But yeah, it's a little scary at first, but once you get through the flow of it, it'll all make sense. But you'll copy that over to your .env file. I already have that over here. The only thing that's hidden is my private key and private RPC. But you see, I've already filled out the addresses for Morpho here, IRM addresses, Oracle factory addresses for base specifically. And let me just get rid of these as a demo here. And so we should be able to get this all up and running. So let's go ahead and get everything set up. We're going to basically download this repository and we're going to yarn install it. I'll have these packages already installed, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway for the flow. You'll see that I have everything up to date. And so what we want to do is, for step 0 is on testnet, I want to deploy my mock tokens, my mock oracles. So I'm just going to go ahead and yarn deploy. That is ready for you to deploy. So yarn deploy. That's just going to deploy those mock tokens and everything. And there we go. We have our tokens and oracles successfully deployed. They are here on the console log, but if you look at the top here, let me just minimize this. You can see under deployments, it saves it in a JSON file for you to reference later. So if you ever need to get to it, you can. And for our scenario, we are going to create a vault and a market. So just to bring in this Escaladraw file, we're going to create a USDC vault that's going to take in USDC token, and we're going to create a market that is going to have wrapped ETH as collateral and USDC to loan. The way the vaults and markets work is markets will have these markets here where I can deposit, collateral and take out a loan. The vaults will then supply the market with the token to be lent out and then earn a yield from those borrow fees for the most part. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab that fake USDC contract address, and we're going to put it in our loan token, and we're also going to put it in our vault token. Again, you don't have to do the vault as the same as the loan. You can mess around with the different markets, but for simplicity, we can because this is what's going to fund it here. And then we're going to do our fake wrapped ETH and then use that as our collateral address. Okay, and so if you notice, we have this vault creation parameters. We're going to go into step 2, and where we're going to actually create our vault, right? We are creating our initial USDC vault. That takes a few parameters here. That is the initial time lock, the vault token, obviously, the name and the vault symbol and the salt. So the time lock is very important as a user or anybody that wants to deposit into your vault. If you make any major changes as a user, I would like a heads up. So sometimes you'll see vault curations the last 3 days, 7 days or something. So if I'm moving from market to market or adding in a new market, I want to be made aware and then make my decision if I want to stay or withdraw on here. So any changes that happen require some kind of time lock, but for our demo purposes, I'm using 0, so anything can happen instantaneously. Vault name can be whatever we want, so I can say vault name number 3. My vault symbol would be for V4, whatever market we want to call it. Salt is something that helps us do predetermined contracts or makes sure that if someone has the same name, we don't get revert. So I'm just keeping it at 77, or let's just do 88. Lucky number 88 or 888. Doesn't really matter, right? So we're going to go ahead and go into Yarn Create Vault, and that is going to go ahead and create our vault. And there we go. And sometimes the Explorer doesn't read the logs right away. It has to catch up. So I have this thing to catch it over a few times so you can see the transactions head. And our new Metamorpho Vault has been deployed out here. So we're going to go ahead and grab this address and pop it in our .env file. It's a little bit lower than you would expect because there's a reason for that, but this is our vault address. I'm going to go ahead and replace this example one and pop it in here. There we go. And so we have our vault created. Let's go over to the next step, and we're going to go ahead and look at step 2A. And this is an optional one, but it is recommended. This is specific to API 3 oracles where you can generate your OEV rewards. There's going to be a follow-up video to this so we can get a little bit deeper as to why. But think of it this way. There's a lot of competition in the market space for Morpho oracles. So when you use any other oracle, and they're all great oracles, Chainlink, Redstone, Pyth, they're all great oracles. What API 3's OEV gets you is additional revenue. Whenever there's a liquidation event that happens and people use OEV to liquidate, you get fees, right? And so you can reward users those fees and get people to deposit to your specific vaults. I know there's always an APR war between different vaults and curators. So any advantage that you can get just by using our oracle will literally pay you. So we're going to skip over this for right now and go right into create Morpho Oracle. And again, we are going to use API 3 oracles. And if you look at the .env, we have a couple mentions on here. Just want you to say, if you're using ERC 4626, you have to set the base vault to something different. If you're using a standard token like ETH USD and USDC, then you don't really need to do anything extra. But just so you know, that's what it is. If you look at the Morpho docs, you'll see the setup similar to this. And then the .env will have the same way. So for our case, we're not using ERC 4626, so we can leave things by default. And we're just going to grab the addresses of the oracles for ETH USDC and USDC USD. So we're going to go over to market.api3.org. And we're going to go over to base testnet and grab some of those files here. So we're going to go and get ETH and see if we can integrate. And you see that I'm going to skip the OE rewards. I'm just going to use the generic Oracle that you would see at every other Oracle service. And we're going to go ahead and put that in our collateral Oracle, right? We're creating an ETH deposit with a USDC borrow. So this is our collateral. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that 3. And so since we're not using an LST like WE to ETH and convert that over, we don't have a second Oracle price, so we're just going to leave that blank because it's just straight to USD value. And then I'm going to do the same thing for USDC, and grab that value here. And I'm going to integrate, and I'm going to copy this. And so I'm going to go ahead and pop that in here. It'll probably be the same address, but I just want to go through the flow so you can see it. And the same thing, it's USDC to USD value, so we don't have to do a separate loan Oracle secondary value, right? And so base vault will be default 000, quote vault, same thing, because they are not the special token, just standard ERC20s. And the conversion sample is just going to be 1-to-1. Okay. And so we're going to go ahead, and once that is all filled out, we're going to go ahead and yarn create Morpho Oracle, and it'll go through a few things that I do want to mention out. And let me go back to this ETH1 here, just so you can see. This feed has expired and students stopped updating. So I just wanted you to see this so you can see on the script how I do a little bit of protection here. So I'm going to go ahead and create this Oracle. It's going to read the information here. And so it's going to basically read the token values here. So it's going to look at what, it's fake USDC, which usually on mainnet is 6 decimals, but I kept it 18 just for simplicity. And then the fake wrapped ETH, 18 decimals. And so it's going to configure the oracles to make sure that we have the right decimal places. But you see this warning right here, the collateral Oracle price feed is more than 1 day old. On here, I did not renew it. The API 3 team, when you go live on mainnet, we absolutely will make sure that you will not remove. But I have a check and balance to make sure that things are working correctly on the oracles before deploying your market, right? These are immutable, and you only get 1 chance of these. So, it's just letting you know, hey, there is a warning. You may want to check onto this before you actually deploy it. So for testing purposes, of course, I want to deploy it. So let me go ahead and hit yes. It's going to give us a setup to make sure that everything looks correct. I know this is looking good, so I'm going to go ahead and deploy that. And so it's going to deploy our Oracle. And then again, depending on the network, your logs may be faster than the script, or maybe the script is faster, but you see now that I have it, we have it deployed successfully at this location. It is checking the raw Oracle price, what the actual price of ETH is right now compared to USDC, and then the vice versa. 1 USDC is worth 0.00038 ETH. Right. And so now we have our Oracle address deployed. So we're going to go ahead and pop that in our .env file for our Morpho Oracle address. There we go. So let's move on to the next step. And so we're going to create our market now, right? So this gets a little confusing on here. So we created a vault. Why would we need to create a market, right? The vault needs to earn some yield. So this is where depositors will just go into the earn section. The market is where borrowers can actually borrow something off their collateral. So we want to create this wrapped ETH collateral with USDC loan on here. So this is going to be our market. So we're going to go ahead and look at our Morpho Oracle address, because now that we have our oracles, we know that we're using API 3 oracles for our ETH and USDC value. And then one thing that we want to make sure is our liquidation loan to value, the LLTV. You see that we have 8,600 or 86 18 decimals. We want to make sure that our liquidation ratios are correct. So 86% of loan to value is a pretty standard one for ETH USDC. So if you want to have different curation levels, there are different accepted values on here. I just left a couple examples for those that may want to experiment a little bit. But if you look at other curators, ETH USDC seems to have like a 85%, 86% liquidation value. So we're going to keep that standard here. And so all we're going to do is just yarn create market. So we're going to create that market. And there we go. Our market ID has been created here. So we can see that our market is set. It looks at all the parameters that we set it up with, and just basically grabbing our market ID. And this is a little bit longer than what you see in a contract address. This is an ID bytes 32 that we have to reference later. So it has all the information on here. So we're going to go into our .env file. Scroll down a little bit more, and then we're going to pop in our market ID. So now we have, just so you can visually see it, we have our USDC vault, we have our ETH collateral vault, but we don't really have it connected, right? This USDC vault has really only one owner because we deployed it and set it to our value. But sometimes what we want to do is we want to shift it to give it to a curator. Like the curator gets to decide what markets to supply. Let's say there's this market, our ETH USDC collateral one. Maybe somebody else made a wrap BTC to USDC collateral one, and we as a curator found it to be safe. So the curator or the owner can decide which market to set it to, and then an allocator or the owner can decide how much USDC we can actually send it to. So what we're going to be doing is setting the permissions for our vault curations, fees, or anything like that. So that'll be the next step that we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and go down and configure our vault. And basically, it's going to be setting up our curator address, allocator address, guardian address, who's going to earn the fees, skim. This is all information that you can read on the specific roles for everybody in the Morpho docs. I have a link right here. And I do a quick, mention of what each one does. But for simplicity, I'm going to be the owner, the curator, and fee collector across this dev wallet. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and paste this down here. So I'm going to go ahead and boom, paste it all down. And I'm just doing a very small fee here in my vault for performance and all the skim recipients here. So that's all going to be all set on here for the vault. So again, you don't have to set one. If you notice other vaults, some just have an owner. Maybe it's controlled by a DAO multisig. Totally up to you, but we're going to go ahead and yarn configure the wallet. And so curator is set. And I just do this so you don't get rate limited. The allocator set. Guardian, and then I will just keep continuing to make sure everything is looking good. I just don't want to get rate limited if you are using a public RPC. And the basic setup is now complete. So now we have roles that are set up for our vault. Those can be changed. Again, this is all set up with if we do a change in these things, our time lock is 0. So I can change these on the fly. But in a real-time situation, you want to have at least 24, 36 hours or something on here. Okay, so now what we want to do is, as we mentioned before, we want to add the market to vault. We want to make sure, say, hey, as a curator or owner, I want to add this market to our vault so we can distribute some money on here. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And so we're going to go ahead and yarn add the market. Our market is set on our .env, and we have a supply cap. So we want to make sure that we have a supply cap, like how much money do we want to supply to this specific market, how much risk we have. As a curator, we want to say, oh, okay, we have maybe this USDC vault has $10 million. How do we want to distribute that to get the best yield? Depending on how much liquidity is available for a liquidation so we don't get bad debt and other factors that we want to do. Maybe we want to do 5 million here, 5 million there, or maybe 10 million all in. And then when we have more in the vault, then we drop it into the wrap BTC. This is totally up to the curation to decide what to do there. By default, I'm just keeping it certain values. So we're going to yarn add market, but make sure that we have our supply cap. So if we scroll down a little bit more, you'll see that I have this supply cap at like 1 million USDC. So I'm going to put $1 million in this supply cap and add this market over to the vault. So I'm going to go ahead and yarn add market. Again, all my owners, curator addresses are already set. So it's just kind of reading all that information. So we are good. It is set to confirm. So you see that the value time lock is in 0 seconds. So I can accept this immediately. If I proposed it before, I would have to wait, 1 week or 5 days, depending on what I have. But it is ready to do it now. So I proposed it. And so now we're going to approve the market cap to the vault. So that's all I'm going to do as the curator or the owner. I'm going to go ahead and just add the market cap. So then it'll be official. So the first one was to propose. This one is to accept. And so, yep, it is ready to go. So we have successfully added it to the vault. So all we've done, just to show you, is we've just said, okay, this vault will now distribute 1 million tokens to here. And we've approved it. And so now it is connected to this market. All right, and now in the next step, we want to set a supply queue. And what does that mean? Supply queue and withdrawal queue, I'll talk about that both separately, is, let's say we have multiple markets. In this example, we only have one market that we're working, but let's say we're working with 2. as the vault curator, we have to decide which one gets money first, right? If we have $5 million, where does it go? And we set a supply cap for $1 million here. So by default, it'll drip over to the wrap BTC vault, right? So once this is full, it'll move over. So we decide in which vault gets filled first, which vault gets filled second, third, fourth, and then which vault do we withdraw from first? Do we withdraw money from the wrap BTC or do we withdraw from the ETH? So you as a curator gets to decide, the order of which this happens. Because we're only working with one in this example, we're just going to, supply Q1 and withdraw Q1. So we can supply and withdraw. So that's already been set on here. So I'm going to go ahead and set my market supply queue. And that's basically on my market list. If we wanted to have an array of market IDs, we totally can. But for right now, we're just going to add this specific market supply and add that key to the vault. And yep, it's going to say, hey, this is the market ID that we're doing. Do we want to do this on the supply queue? Absolutely. Yes. And here we go. Okay, so we're going to set up the withdraw queue. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and update the withdraw queue. And that's the same thing over here. I'm going to update this withdraw queue. And there we go. We're going to go ahead and do index 0 because that's what it is. And then, yes, I do want to update this array for the withdraw queue as well. Perfect. And then all market IDs are to their expected positions. Excellent. And so now we are ready to actually deposit money into the vaults to get it distributed. So now I'm just going to go ahead and deposit some assets into our vault. This is the vault right here. We're depositing some USDC into this vault. And then that will be ready to lend out in the market. So I'm going to go ahead and deposit to vault. Again, you can set a deposit amount in your .env file. So if we go down here, you see that I'm depositing 10,000 USDC. Those values are just hard coded. You can change that to any part, but just an example here, saving time. And so we've approved it, making sure we go to the right vault. We're looking at the right information, the current total value of the assets. We don't have anything in there. So we can just, yes, this is the right vault. This is what we want to do. And then we've deposited perfectly. Now we have a post deposit balance of 10,000 fake USDC. And so now let's go ahead and deposit some collateral to the market, right? We want to borrow some of that USDC, but we have to put a little bit of ETH in here. So we're going to deposit some ETH and then eventually borrow out some USDC into the market. So we're going to go ahead and supply the collateral to the market. So we're going to deposit some ETH. And if we look down, we do the collateral amount. I'm going to do 10,000 wrapped ETH here. So way more ETH than available USDC, but just making sure our position, these are the available assets, total borrow assets. Again, a lot of information for you to look at as a curator to see what the flow is. Yes, it's been approved. I want to go ahead and do this. And perfect. I have now a balance of a whole bunch of fake wrapped ETH. And so now I can borrow that position, right? I'm going to go ahead and borrow from the market. That's the next logical step, is to borrow from it. And so the borrow amount is 100 USDC. That's all I want to borrow. And you're getting the flow here, right? I have the borrow amount, repay amount, withdraw amounts. That is all that I'll be covering for this specific tutorial as we're getting a little long. But you get the idea, right? I'm depositing, seeing the flow, creating scenarios that I want to do. And so do I want to borrow 100 fake USDC from the market? Absolutely. It is available. And so now I have, successfully borrowed the $100. And so let's go ahead and repay it because we're a good borrow lender. And so I'm going to go ahead and repay that debt. And you'll see that the repay amount is 50. And I'm going to repay some of that money back into the market on there, and then, check what the APY is, what the fees are over time on there. And it might have been rate limited on here really quick. Yeah, I did a little too fast and I'm getting rate limited on here with the right contract. So we'll give it a few seconds on here before I repay it on there, but you get the general idea. And so there's a couple other tools here. You can withdraw from the vaults. Things that you may want to do is read the Oracle. At any time you want to read your Oracle, you absolutely can. So I'm just going to see, let's see if that goes through. I want to read the value of the Oracle. There we go. I can see my Oracle price at any given time and see some stats on that if that changes or not. If I want details on the vaults, if I want details on my market, I absolutely can. I'm just going to go ahead and grab this market. What is the status of the market? What am I looking at? And so you can check your market at any given time without the user interface. So you're able to look at this and just different tools that I've been using for what I need to do on here. So just a great tool that I built for myself for some of my scenarios, some of my liquidation ideas, and just sharing this publicly for you guys to use. So again, these are all special tools for you to use. One thing that I do want you to notice is there is an ability to supply loan token assets directly to the market instead of putting them in the vault and then letting a curator do that. If you wanted to, bootstrap your market and just start having USDC to be lent out without waiting for a vault to do so. Maybe you don't want to have a vault, or you're working out a deal, but you want the market to be moving right away. You can actually absolutely supply tokens directly to the market and withdraw tokens directly, earn the yield directly from what only this market does. So if that is an option you want to do, that's not something you see in the front end. It is an option for you to use on there. So keep reading on. You can then do flash loans, and you can run liquidations. You can then change the price of the Oracle. So those are things that you can use. But I just wanted to give you a quick rundown of what this thing can do, how it works. You've seen the flow. So good luck. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But now you understand how to do a curation on Morpho.